Last year, I released a video showing why you need to use magnetically shielded speakers near CRT displays. Since then, I've been trying to find a reliable source for fully shielded speakers. While I found one set of awesome bookshelf speakers, as well as really nice studio monitors, all the other speakers I bought that claimed to be shielded actually weren't. Apparently, most manufacturers removed the shielding after CRTs dropped out of the mainstream, but never updated their documentation. Well, I have some good news. The company Kanto is now making some awesome desktop speakers specifically for CRT users like us. Let's take a look. Let's get some disclaimers out of the way while I do the unboxing. First, after seeing an ad for brand new magnetically shielded speakers called the Aura, I reached out to the company who makes them, Kanto, and asked if I could borrow some for review. They were nice enough to send me a pair with some stands, and I'll be posting an affiliate link to buy them, because I'm not a moron, but as always, I'm brutally honest. If you don't believe me, please check out my other reviews for proof. I don't pull punches. Next, all my tests are subjective as I don't have a reliable way to both record and present you listening results. I probably could have obsessed about using a pro equipment setup to get decent recordings, but even in the unlikely event I pulled that off, the speakers you're using to listen to this video would totally skew the results. So I was lazy and just used my camera's built-in mic to record the sound. I promise I'll describe everything to the best of my ability though. Okay, that's it. Let's get started. Before we go any further, let's check to see if they're actually shielded. Please check the other video I did for the details as to what I'm doing, but for the purpose of this video, all you need to know is there's no distortion on screen, so these are good. In contrast, here's some non-shielded speakers. Check out how the colors go nuts on my Tate display. That's the speaker magnet's distortion messing with the CRT's magnetic field. But when I switch back to the Auras, there's no distortion at all. Okay, shielding confirmed. They're 100% safe to use near any CRT. So now let's see how they perform. The first test I ran was simply placing them on top of my 820 BVM and playing Streets of Rage. And the sound quality was really unexpected. I was able to clearly hear all the high and mid notes, and the low end was massive for a speaker this size. It's got a built-in crossover if you'd like to add a subwoofer, but I really don't think you'll need one. There's a lot of low end here. At $350, they're not cheap, but right off the bat, this feels like a you get what you pay for scenario. They definitely sound like they're worth the price. I wanted to compare them to other solutions, but that's kind of tricky as there's nothing new that's in its price range. Here's some examples though. Next, I plugged them into my PC. They have a USB audio interface built right in, which is awesome if you're only using your PC's built-in audio, as those are often not very high quality. All I did was plug it in, hold down the power button in front to change modes, and my PC auto-detected it. No drivers required, at least for my Windows 11 setup. They sounded great here as well, but I wanted to see how they compared to my magnetically shielded Yamaha MSP5 studio monitors. I connected both to my Motu M4 just to keep apples to apples, and the Auras definitely sounded better for listening to music. I respectfully disagree with the statement on Kanto's website that claims the Auras bridge the gap between computer speakers and studio monitors. They are much too bassy to be used as studio monitors. See, monitors like the MSP5s aren't supposed to sound exciting. They're supposed to be mostly flat to make mixing easier. Even though my camera's mic sucks, you could clearly hear the bass boost when switching to the Aura. Don't get me wrong, they sound great. I just wouldn't use them to mix a song. I made sure to try both stands as well as just adding the rubber pads they shipped with and setting them right on the table, but the base didn't change drastically. And since I just mentioned it, let's talk about the stands. The regular stand is $20 and the elevated stand is $30. Both are heavy and feel sturdy and well made. The elevated stands were great on my desk, but also perfect next to 20-inch monitors. I imagine they'd line up great with 14-inch monitors as well. I liked the smaller stand too, and if they were the only choice, I'd still prefer them over any of the other desktop speaker stands I'd bought in the past and returned over the years. But the elevated ones were definitely my favorites. If you're buying these to place next to your monitor, seriously consider the elevated stands as well. I wanted to try their Bluetooth mode too and compare them to my Ascend Acoustic magnetically shielded speakers. Now, I know this is not a fair test at all, but stick with me for a minute. First, you hold the button on the front like before to switch between modes. For Bluetooth, just wait until the light turns blue and pair it to your phone. I played a song and switched between my main stereo and the Auras. The Ascend Acoustics paired with an NAD amp were definitely better, but the Auras absolutely held their own. And that's why I was comfortable showing this. A set of speakers that are about the same price as these, connected to an amp that's far more expensive than both, is obviously going to be better, but the Auras did well. I would love to have some kind of comparison against a cheaper option, but there really aren't any, at least not new. And I decided to show some used examples, but that brings us back to the main problem I talked about earlier. How do you know that a used speaker is actually magnetically shielded, especially when some manufacturers just stopped shielding them at some point, but never actually updated their documentation? Supposedly, all of these Wohler Amp-1A rack-mountable speakers are shielded, and it sits nicely on top of 20-inch PVM and BVMs. I just added some 1-inch isolation feet to the edges of mine, both to hold it in place and lift it off the vent holes. I like how the Wohler fits, and I also like that it's got a headphone jack built in. I paid under $100 for this, including shipping, and for that price, I think it sounds great. The Auras are much better though, but over 3 times the price. If you have a 20-inch PVM or BVM and don't currently have the budget for the Auras, the Amp-1A is a great choice, as long as you find them cheap. I'll note they weren't nearly as loud as the Auras, but maybe that's just an issue with mine? Another downside of buying used, I guess. I'm not sure if they all sound like this or if mine needs repair. Lastly, I tried some old Bose computer speakers. If you could find a pair really cheap that's shielded, they're great, but they are not in the same league as the Auras, not even close. If you stumble upon a pair of these that are really cheap, definitely pick them up just to have, even as spares. Even if you get them home and find out they're not magnetically shielded, you could probably just leave them in a box somewhere and use them as spare computer speakers. And if they are magnetically shielded and you got them cheap, they're a totally fine solution, and the headphone jack that's on the front of them does come in handy. There's nothing wrong with these speakers, I just personally wouldn't go out of my way to try and find a set of them unless we figured out some way to determine which ones are definitely magnetically shielded. Totally up to you though. So overall, I really liked these speakers, and I think anyone looking to pair quality audio with their CRT should at least consider them, especially if you've already invested in a high-end monitor like a PVM or BVM. I'd also recommend them as high-end PC speakers, and I'd say that even without the built-in USB connection, but that's a big bonus. I do wish there was some kind of EQ or at least a way to just turn the bass down, and while that was absolutely not a deal breaker for me, I do know a bunch of people that get annoyed with speakers that have a lot of low end. I also hope some of the creative people in the retro gaming scene come up with a way to use the mounting screw terminals and back to mount them to the sides of RGB monitors. I'm sure most people will be using these on a table, but there are crazy people like me who wheel their monitors around on carts and might just want some kind of mounting bracket that goes up over the top. Anyway, if you like this video and you want to see more like it, please consider supporting the channel. RetroRGB.com just turned off all Google ads to try and make a better user experience, but that's only possible due to the amazing Patreon and Floatplane supporters, so please consider signing up. If you're not in a position to, you could still help by using general affiliate links to buy the same stuff on Amazon, but for the same price, but we get a cut. Don't forget about the affiliate links in the description too. Those really help. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.